Well, hello, Teddy. You gonna say hello to your friends? They missed you. You gonna apologize for your absence? You gonna do something about that? Or are you just gonna show them your ass? Some things never change. Why, hello again, endurance nerds. It's been a hot minute since I've made a video, and I could do the typical YouTuber thing and profusely apologize, make the excuses, and throw myself at your mercy for forgiveness as, oh, I was gone so long. But I'm not nearly arrogant enough to think I'm that important. You all have your own lives, and I'm sure you did just fine without my videos. However, I know many of you enjoy my videos, that's why you're here, and several of you have reached out to make sure that I'm still producing videos, and I've tried to keep up with community posts to let you know that there are signs of life. It's just a life priority thing. December was very busy at work, then we rolled into the holidays, and we all know what holidays are with family and friends, and then in 2022, I am undergoing a number of professional certifications, the exams for which are some of the most rigorous in the world, really right there underneath those required for professional licensure for law, medicine, things like that. I've had to make it my full-time job the last week of December and the first week of January, really just to study and get ready for these exams. So suffice it to say, for the past 6 weeks or so, my time has not really been my own, and I've had to sideline training and making videos. So understand I don't take you guys as an audience for granted, but this will happen from time to time because this isn't my full-time job. So I appreciate those of you who have reached out and are sticking around, and for those of you who are new to the channel, welcome. Thank you for coming. Now, many of you have seen my recent community posts where I've been kind of hinting at this idea of making a real talk video. And what I mean by that is I don't really have a script or an outline for what I want to talk about today. I have a general idea, and I don't typically script my videos to begin with, but I generally have a more formalized concept of when and where I want to talk about things. And here, I wanted to more or less riff and talk through some of these things and think about them in real time and make it a little bit more conversational. I know that we can't really make a two-way conversation when it comes to YouTube videos, but I don't want to come off as this is some kind of exposition. I want to talk through some of the things that I have learned and experienced in terms of psychology and progress, and the things that I have researched on my own, and share those with you guys. As it is January, it's the beginning of the year. We've just gone through the milestone of the changing of the years, and at top of mind for a lot of people is kind of that idea of goal setting and progress and where they want to be during the course of 2022 and beyond. And while it doesn't have to be January or the end of December where you have these conversations, you can always start new goals. It doesn't have to be the start of a month, the start of a week. It could be Wednesday in the middle of March, but a lot of people attach kind of this idea of making goals and progress evaluations in January. I thought it would be a good time to make this video. So that's really what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about goals, I want to talk about mindset, and I want to talk about why a lot of you are probably not content or happy with where you are in terms of your athletic endeavors, and you can probably take a lot of what I'm going to talk about today and extrapolate that into your daily lives, whether it's professional, personal, relationship, whatever that might be. It's going to be very generalized, but I want to focus, being on this channel, obviously around the athletic piece. The last thing I want to preface this conversation with is just to warn you that this conversation might make people feel a little bit uncomfortable, maybe make people feel a little bit defensive. And what I really want to talk about is people being honest with themselves and really evaluating where they are, how they've done at evaluating and setting their goals, and whether or not they're challenging themselves appropriately. Be clear that this is not a hustle culture type of video and harden the fuck up, but it's going to be real in terms of, hey, where are you at in terms of setting your goals? Are you really happy with where you are and how you can push yourself to move forward? And now that I've gotten you guys thoroughly confused and you're thinking, what the hell is this crazy bitch talking about now? What is she on about? And this is really coming from something that I've seen growing in prevalence, not only on this channel, but kind of out there in the world of endurance sport, where just the everyday cyclist or runner out there, whatever, that you'll say things on my videos like, you know, I'm just kind of the person who gets dropped, or I'm the old fat cyclist, or I'm old and slow, or I'm just slow, or whatever it might be, right? You're saying things that you probably believe to be objectively true, and you say it in a manner that is supposed to be in jest maybe, or a little bit of self-deprecation, or to commiserate with other people in the community. And I'm not saying that there's any bad faith there, but if I start to peel back that onion there and think about the psychology behind those statements, I think that maybe people are not necessarily being honest with themselves. Now, there might be some of you who watch my videos that are literally only interested in being somewhat recreationally fit, right? Just doing something nice for your health, getting on the bike or getting out on the run every once in a while, just to make sure that you can kind of stave off some of that lifestyle-related illness and health implications that we seem to find ourselves in the first world with sedentary jobs. And that's perfectly fine. There is nothing wrong. This is not about me judging people for what their personal objectives or goals are. This video might not be for that person, but I suspect that the vast majority of you who are leaving those types of comments are doing so just to kind of make fun of yourself, so to speak, as a defense mechanism so nobody makes fun of you first. Don't get me wrong. I'm not making fun of anybody. I don't give a shit how fast you are, okay? Let's make that clear right now. But I think some of you are saying this thing when you're kind of maybe a little bit hurt on the inside that you're not better than you are, that you're not faster than you are, that you're not keeping up with certain groups. And you default to this idea that, well, I guess I'm just kind of doomed, so to speak, to be in this current state of affairs because I am old, or I'm the fat guy or gal or what have you, right? And these are your words, not mine. I don't give a shit what anybody looks like or how old you are, please. I have people from all walks of life on this channel and I enjoy speaking to all of you. But I think many of you kind of resign yourself to believe that that's the way things are always going to be, so you may as well accept it and just deal with it and make fun of yourself for it in my comment section so that nobody else judges you. The point of this video is to tell you that that's not actually the case, that it doesn't matter how old you are, what you look like, or what you are physiologically, whether you've got a little bit of extra weight, what have you. It doesn't matter if you're just taking on sport for the first time and you're 60 years old. Those are not the things that are limiting. The things that are limiting you into moving forward and to maybe being where you want to be as an athlete, quite frankly, they're up here. I know that there's a lot of woo-woo around mindset and affirmations and visualizing things. That's not what this video is going to be about. But mindset is very important, and I want to talk about goal setting and what is actually holding you back as an athlete. And I guarantee you, it's not your physical state of affairs. So let's break this down a little bit and talk about what's going on with people's brains. What are those limiting beliefs that are standing in people's way and trying to get you out of your own way to move forward? And the first and most important thing and the most common thing that I see is that there's this just overarching belief, and this is very common, that natural ability or talent is the supreme catalyst to performance. That if you don't have a certain amount of natural ability or talent, then you are forever going to be limited. And I know that's what a lot of you think, that you think that you are just on the back foot, that you are forever limited by the fact that you aren't a natural athlete, that you're of a certain age, that you're of a certain physiology, whatever that might be. You feel like that is just so limiting that you're never going to push yourself to try. Many people look at the pros and the elites in sport or pretty much anywhere in life and think that these are all prodigies. These are people that have some genetic X factor that make them the best in the world. I'm gonna tell you something. It couldn't be farther from the truth. Of course, there are people with that genetic X factor. The very razor's edge of a lot of sports. You have those people who set themselves just a little bit above the rest of the pros because they have some higher VO2 max or they have something special about them. But overwhelmingly, people who are at the top level of sport didn't get there because they are genetic freaks. They got there because they worked harder than everybody else. If you interview some of these folks, they will tell you as a kid, they were not some kind of prodigy. They didn't just walk on the field and just dominate everybody. They were mediocre at best. The difference between them and everybody else, on Saturday morning when their peers were playing video games, they were up and at the pool at 4 o'clock in the morning. They were out on the basketball court throwing three-pointers until dark. They were just practicing over and over again. Michael Jordan, who is known and renowned for being the best overall basketball player in history, was turned down for his varsity basketball team. He was turned down. He wasn't good enough. Does that sound like a prodigy or genetic freak to you? No, he took that failure and he doubled down and he worked even harder. Winston Churchill said that courage is going from failure to failure without a loss of enthusiasm. That's the X factor. The people who will take those failures and come back time and time and time again. People very often confuse failures with being a failure, that they personally internalize that and somehow make that a character flaw because they failed. But failing is so important. It is the most valuable and information-rich source of data or feedback that you can get in your life. But people will shut down emotionally and mentally before they allow themselves to see progress because they get turned down by failures. But the best in the world have embraced failure. And this is why I asked on the community post the other day, what would you do that would make you feel fulfilled in life, even if you were failing? Now, if you think about those who have ambitions to go to the Olympics, let's say, those people who want to go to the Olympics, who want to win a medal, the vast majority of them, probably 99% or more of those folks, will never get there, but they don't give up. they keep going, and they have this fire coming from their gut that gets them to try again and again and work harder and harder, and they may never ever get there, but they still feel fulfilled and they have a sense of purpose because it aligns with their values and what they truly love. And if endurance sport or anything in your life feels like that to you, then there's nothing wrong with pursuing it as a goal, as something that might even seem like a shitty pipe dream, that the chances of you getting there might be so infinitesimally slim that it seems ridiculous. But don't worry about what anybody else thinks about your goals. Find something that fulfills you so that if you fail at the end of the day, that you'll still feel like you have that sense of purpose. You'll be so surprised at how much progress that you can make. 6 months from now, you'll be absolutely gobsmacked at how much better you've gotten. A year, you won't even recognize yourself if you're able to aim high and think of yourself as capable of doing almost anything. Within the bounds of physics, the human potential is almost limitless. Now, do I secretly know that the 60-year-old is not going to the Olympics? Of course, I'm not nuts. However, how does that help you to acknowledge that? To disempower yourself by acknowledging some kind of goal that you're probably not going to set for yourself anyway. You know, that gentle white lie to yourself that pretty much anything is possible. You're going to set goals for yourself that are going to push you. So many of you will set goals for yourself that are just so far beneath your potential because you are afraid to reach and to miss. That you'll say things like, well, I'll just be happy if I finish. Will you really? Because if you are, that's fine. If what you want is to just maintain a certain level of fitness, that's perfectly fine. But if you're just saying that so that you don't have to deal with that internal sense of maybe shame or embarrassment if you don't get there, stop that. Just stop it. Aim high. Aim higher than you think you can potentially reach, and try your damnedest and do everything that you can to get there. And if you miss anyway, that's okay. You are not a failure. Maybe you failed to meet your goal. Maybe you wanted to finish in the top 25% of a group ride, but you finished the top 35%. And? Did you finish the top 35% 3 months ago? Probably not. But if you're just constantly making goals that are way down here, well, I just want to finish, and I'll just take what I can, and I'm just going to give myself a pat on the back just for showing up. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. But I think if many of you are being honest with yourself, that's not really what's making you happy. And I think you want to aim higher, but you're afraid to do that. Stop thinking that everything is contingent on natural ability and talent. I'll make fun of myself. Let's use some personal examples. Let's talk about pull-ups. Right now, probably a little embarrassed to say that I probably can't do one single pull-up. Person of my age and my physical ability elsewhere should be able to do a pull-up. I can do a couple of chin-ups, but I can't do any pull-ups. Maybe I could do one on a really good day. And I could say and make excuses and talk about the fact that, well, I'm a woman and women don't typically have a lot of upper body strength, and I've had some shoulder injuries. I've had a surgery on this shoulder and I broke this shoulder. I never fully rehabbed, so I have some limitations there, and genetically I don't carry a whole lot of muscle on my back to begin with. I carry most of my muscle in my lower body, and especially my lats. They've always been weak. So, you know, there's no reason for me to even pursue pull-ups because I'm never going to be good at them because I've got all these limitations. I'm not naturally good at doing pull-ups, so why should I bother? But the truth is, I don't want it enough. If I'm being honest with myself, I don't want it enough. I don't care enough to go to the gym and do workouts that work on my lat muscles, to put up my pull-up bar and to practice that every single day to work towards a goal. Even though I know that there are going to be some women with no physical ability that aren't as trained as an athlete as I am, that could probably get off the couch and do more than I can. So I could either say, hey, obviously those people are going to be better than I am because they have more natural ability. Or I can take some accountability and say, I just don't want it enough. I don't care enough. And I think many of you are falling into that trap, that you don't want it enough. But why don't you want it enough? Maybe it's just because you're scared. And I want you to really think about how much you want certain goals and how much you're willing to sacrifice and move towards those goals. Let's talk about endurance sport. I think that I could win a national championship for women. Not because I think I'm exceptional at cycling. I don't think that I'm naturally gifted at cycling. I am nowhere near that ability right now. But I know that there is a path to get there, but I don't want it enough. So many people are unwilling to prioritize the elements in their life that they won't acknowledge what is holding them back from their goals. Endurance sport, while it's very important to me and very high on my list of priorities, isn't number one. It's not even number two. And in that regard, I don't want it enough to, no bullshit, what does it take to get there, and do those things. So if I wanted to put myself in a position to win a national championship, what would I need to do? Well, I'd probably have to do 15 to 20 hours of training per week, good structured training, potentially getting myself a coach. I would have to prioritize getting no less than 8 hours of sleep per night. I would make nutrition a foremost priority and be very strict with what I was putting in my body and what quantities to make sure I am optimizing for performance. I would have to prioritize recovery, whether that be massages, using my recovery boots every single day, using the massage gun, all of those things that feed into healing and performance. I would have to make sure that I was able to spend the money on travel and to go into different races to put myself in a position to earn points and get through rankings. I'm not willing to do any of that because it's not my number one priority. Notwithstanding, my career might have to take a back seat. And career, in my case, actually ranks higher in my priorities, in my hierarchy of priorities in my life, than does endurance sport. If I wanted to go pursue being a national champion, I would have to put myself in a position in a holding pattern in terms of my career, be an individual contributor, somebody who can really set my hours at 40, a maximum of 45 per week, where I can operate at 60 to 80% of my capacity and put out good quality work. I wouldn't be happy with that because career, for me, at least right now, is ranked higher than endurance sport. That just is what it is. I don't want it enough. But does that mean I have to let my foot completely off the gas and say, well, because I can't, because of the constraints of my life, I can't do all of these things to be the best in the country at cycling or whatever it might be? Does that mean I just don't bother and don't aim high within the constraints that I have? Of course not. I make different goals for myself. That no bullshit, what does it take? Work backwards from a goal. What kind of time do I have available to me and what I can do with that? Okay, maybe I can train between 10 and 15 hours a week. I can still make it a point to prioritize sleep. I can make it a point to prioritize nutrition. I have plenty of knobs to turn where I don't just say, well, I'm limited, so I shouldn't set goals for myself because I have all of these limitations, that I'm not getting any younger, that I have other things I have to do in my life. I could use that as an excuse all day long, but at the end of the day, it's on me. It's on the decisions that I make and the goals that I set for myself and the rules that I set around those goals. To that end, let's talk about goal setting and where people get tripped up in setting their goals, because maybe it's not an impetus problem for you. Maybe it's not a limiting belief as to where you could go, but it could come from how you're structuring your goals and the path you need to get there. The first error that people make with their goals is they're not nearly specific enough. You need to be GPS level specific with your goals, because if you're not, how are you going to put together the recipe, so to speak, as to how to get there? Let's use a race as an example, right? I want to put myself in a position that I could potentially win a race. We're going to talk about why using something like winning a race is a bad goal in a second, but I want to put myself in a position where I could potentially win a race. Okay, what category race? When is this race? Where is this race? Right? I can't just say sometime in 2022, I want to win a race and make that as a goal. That goal is bullshit. When people make goals like that, they do that kind of so that they can hide in the vagaries a little bit, where it doesn't put them in a position to necessarily be failing if they are, well, I didn't win this race, but I still have time to win another one, right? But it's really holding them back because you can't deconstruct that goal into a method of how to get there. So what you want to do is pick a race. Pick the race that you're going to target. Maybe in mid-June, on June 15th of 2022, I want to be in a position where I can win this category 3 race. Okay, now you can work with something. What is it going to take to get there? And you might have to do a little research as to what it takes to get there and say, okay, for me to be in a position where I can win this race, I need to be able to hold 22 miles per hour solo at a tempo pace. I need to be able to climb for at least 5 minutes at 5.3 watts per kilogram because there's a climb in the middle of this race. And I know that these are the general speeds. So I need to work myself to that point. You can deconstruct that and maybe how many watts that you have. You can maybe work some aerodynamics out on your setup and your position out on the road. You can really get very granular as to how to get there. And you can set up your plan and you can set up your entire environment to tailor it towards those very, very, very specific goals. And then you have to tie your identity to those goals. And you have to set rules for yourself, really hard and fast rules. When you are aiming for a high level goal, something that you can't just skate your way through, you have to be disciplined and diligent. You have to tell yourself things like, I'm the type of person who doesn't miss a workout. I'm the type of person who doesn't eat junk food Monday through Saturday. I've given myself Sunday to kind of have those cheat meals or some of those special treats, so to speak. I'm the type of person who doesn't stay awake after 9:30 p.m. because I need to get 8 hours of sleep per night. I'm the type of person who doesn't lay in my bed in the morning and scroll through social media for 20 minutes at a time. You set rules for yourself that move you towards your goals. You have to look at the elements in your life and think almost for every single thing. I know it seems ridiculous, but does this move me towards my goal? Yes or no? If no, get the hell out. Don't do that. If it's important enough to you, you are willing to put those rules and boundaries around those ends, but you can't do that if your goals are not specific enough. Now, I talked about how winning a race is not a good goal. You need to set a goal that is within your span of control. Winning a race is not within your span of control. Putting yourself in a position to win a race, to make yourself competitive by being able to hold 22 miles per hour by yourself at tempo for an hour, to hold 5.3 watts per kilogram for at least 5 minutes, those are within your span of control. You can tailor your plan and you can do the work to get there, and you can get feedback, feed forward the entire time through. But winning a race is going to be contingent on extrinsic factors that you cannot control for. Maybe there's a crash in front of you. Maybe there's wind. Maybe there's a team of 8 people who are playing hard strategy and tactics, and you came by yourself. You can do everything in your power to put yourself in a position where you can win, but you might not win, and that should not discount all of the work or your progression, right? You might fail objectively at your goal when you set something like winning, even though you've succeeded at meeting all of those objectives and deliverables to get there. So you want to set something that is specific and within your span of control, so that in a very granular manner that you can deconstruct that goal and you can do everything that you need to get there. But you're going to go through periods where motivation is low, and maybe where you're feeling a little bit defeated and set back, and you have to rely on your habits and your systems to get you there. And one of the things that will help you do that is to praise the process. But we don't just praise the process for checking the box and phoning it in and doing what we said we would do, throw our legs over the bike. Well, I kind of did that workout, but I didn't give it everything that I had. You praise yourself based on the results and the effort. You don't praise it based on box checking. And when you break your rules, and a lot of people get really triggered by this, you punish yourself. I'm not talking about sitting alone in a room and flagellating yourself, but you need to kind of create that idea of punishment and reward for when you do the things that you said that you would do to move you towards your goals, you get rewarded. When you don't do those things, there's some kind of punishment. I don't know what that thing is. It's going to depend on you and your psychology as to what that thing is, but there needs to be some sort of kind of negative feedback for not doing the things that you said you would do, or else you're just going to keep doing that. If your goal is to lose 50 pounds and you binge on chocolate chip cookies, there needs to be something to tell you not to do that again, because all of the dopamine in the world is going to be raging through your system when you eat the cookies, because the cookies are delicious. Now, it doesn't mean that you need to call yourself a failure or a piece of shit and that negative self-talk, but there needs to be some sort of response so that your brain learns that that's not the behavior that we want. We don't want to eat the cookies. And if you do eat the cookies, that's okay. We're all human. Do not wait until the following Monday. Do not wait until the next month. Well, I can get back, and I screwed up everything now. It is what it is, so I may as well throw away the baby with the bathwater because I ate these cookies. No, you get back on track right away, right then, right there. You're done with the cookies. Throw the cookies away. Cookies are gone. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be cookies. But the idea is that you do not let yourself sink into maybe those missteps or those failures, so to speak, along the path and just stay there and wallow in that. You get right back on immediately, right away. You do not let that fester. I don't think most people have a hard time wrapping their heads around the idea that rules and accountability and discipline practice are important if you are trying to improve, right? I don't think I have to convince most people that that is important, but it does start with your goals. Setting goals that are beyond your current level of ability, beyond what you think you're capable of. If you are setting goals that are within your current capability or potential, what's the point? What are you working towards? There's a quote by Tony Robbins, and I know this has been used by other people as well, that if you don't know where you want to be in 5 years, you are already there. This is so true. People think that they have all the time in the world, and if they just continue to kind of check boxes and put in the work, that they will make progress. And maybe they will make some progress, but they're not likely to see themselves making huge leaps forward. And they're very often going to see that concept of the regression to the mean, right? They're just going to kind of vacillate around this kind of center point that they've seen for quite some time. Unless they make that stair step up, move themselves one standard deviation from the mean from their own personal level of performance, they're always going to basically hover around their current level of ability. You have to know where you want to go and to put together the roadmap on how to get there. How are you going to create that plan or those benchmarks if your goal is so amorphous and vague that you can't possibly put together a roadmap? I'm going to repeat this. I think this comes down to fear. People are comfortable in the vagaries of their goals because it gives you that plausible deniability, that little comfort, so you get maybe a little bit of squirminess when you don't maybe hit it. But if you don't put a date and a time and a when, where, who, what, all of the W's, that is not going to serve you. You need to make the goals specific enough so that you can deconstruct it and be okay with the potential that you could do all the things right and you'll still fail. But if you look back and you compare step one to the finish line, you will be absolutely gobsmacked as to how far that you've come. I've been thinking a lot about this in my own life, where I have let certain priorities in my life regress to the mean, so to speak, where I've made those missteps over the course of my number of years of endurance sport, in my career, in a lot of facets of my life, where I have not been specific enough with my goals and I haven't challenged myself enough with my goals, where I've had natural abilities in certain things and I have relied on those natural abilities and realized that I've actually limited myself because certain things do come naturally to me. There are certain things that I am good at that I don't need to try. But damn, if I just put in the deliberate practice and put a very high benchmark and a goal for myself, how much farther could I be? And I want to warn people watching this video against thinking that natural ability and talent is what sets people apart. And if you do have natural ability and talent, to rely on that and not really put in the effort and to phone it in. I'm actually going to reread this book this year. I read this a couple years ago. This is a book called Mindset by Carol Dweck. It talks about the idea of a growth mindset. Please don't avoid this book because the term growth mindset has become somewhat of an overused trope in the self-improvement space. This really speaks back to the original research and the literature by Dr. Carol Dweck. It goes through different avenues of life, whether it be as a parent, professionally, from an athletic standpoint, and talks about what an actual growth mindset is, setting those goals and being okay with failure and challenging yourself. It's a great book. Like I said, I'm going to be reading this here in the next couple of weeks. As an honorable mention, there's the book Grit by Angela Duckworth. If you're kind of comfortable with the mindset stuff, there are some books about kind of how to practically add those habits, right? Building those habits and systems and finding a practicable way to do that. There are books like Atomic Habits by James Clear, The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. These are all great things to read to kind of move you towards setting up your goals, setting up your mindset. We are all in different areas. Some of you are great with mindset, but just don't know how to get there. And some of you kind of know the pieces to put together in terms of habit, but just don't have the mindset behind it. Or you might be some kind of combination in between. I recommend picking up one or all of these books to kind of help to move you towards your goals. And at the end of the day, it's really about being honest with yourself, evaluating where you are in your life, what you can do with your current ability and your current goals. And even if you think that there are constraints in your life that are holding you back from moving towards really your dream goal, is there still something that you can do to improve on your current state of affairs? You might tell me you only have 5 hours a week to train, so you're never going to get to a certain point. You could say it has nothing to do with natural ability, it just has to do with time and constraints of life. Are you doing everything that you can with those 5 hours to reach certain goals? Have you tried changing your periodization? Have you tried changing the stimulus? Have you tried really optimizing for sleep and nutrition and recovery? Have you done all of those things? I guarantee you that 99% of you have room to improve on those ends. Do you really only have 5 hours a week to train? Take a look at your week. How many hours do you spend watching Netflix or watching TV? I'm not trying to denigrate people who do that. But could you squeak out an extra couple of hours? How many hours per week are you watching this idiot on YouTube videos or other people on YouTube videos? Could you leverage that time to training? Could you combine some of that time? Could you take that hour that you watch TV at night, do a little bit of core work or a little upper body work, or do some body weight work and work your quads or your hamstrings in front of your TV while you're doing those things? There are always ways to optimize. And you might say, I work 90 hours a week, I'm never gonna be able to do this. Do you have to work 90 hours per week? If you love your job and you are pursuing your dreams in terms of your career, great. But a lot of people just are a little bit resistant to change and they don't ever evaluate their lives to say, do I need to work this job with this shitty boss for 90 hours a week? Are the golden handcuffs really that great for you that you need to do that? Or are there ways to rearrange or find another job? Just get creative. I'm not saying that these things can change, but be very honest with yourself. Evaluate what you're doing, evaluate your environment, and to make sure that you are optimizing towards your goals. Start with a list of priorities. Put them in rank order. There's no ties. 1 through 5. Put a list of priorities together for your life, and once you know where those are, now you know where your constraints lie, and you set your goals around those ends. So I hope that you guys thought that this was helpful. I know it was a little bit scatterbrained. As I said, I wanted to make this as kind of real and conversational as I could. Please give me some feedback down in the comments down below. Talk about your journey with mindset, what goals you want to set for yourself. If you want to hold yourself accountable, put the goal right down there in the comments for sometime this year. Be specific. If you want me to critique your goal statement, let me know. I will do that as well down in the comments below. Just let let me know. If you like this video, you got any value out of this video, please hit that thumbs up button. It helps the algorithm to shine very favorably on this little channel of ours. Subscribe, YouTubey things, all of that stuff. And as always, I will catch you in the next one. See ya.